Hello folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I'm your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now today is a question from a viewer which I'm going to answer, which caused me a lot of thought. I walked around for quite a few days pondering this question, and you'll understand when I tell you what the question is from Russell French, who wrote to me and said, what would be your top 3 Rolex watch collection? I already have a DJ41, fluted bezel, blue dial on an Oyster bracelet and love it. What would you have? Okay, so 3 watches chosen, and this is the rules, the parameters I have set on myself. 3 watches chosen from the current Rolex catalogue, not including anything that's discontinued, only what's available today. That is what I've worked upon. And I have made, eventually, after a lot of thinking and wrangling, my top 3 list of Rolex watches. Now, I know some of you are out there screaming at your device saying, why the hell would anybody want 3 Rolex watches in their collection? I get it. I'm there. I'm one of you. I'm not the biggest Rolex watch fan in the world, even though I own 1 or 2 of them. But I'm answering a question, so let's just go with the flow of the conversation. But I understand why people are attracted to Rolex, because, you know, over the years, they've been able to blend maybe the technical excellence of one of the elite watchmaking brands, as well as also furthering this prestige in the world that people see Rolex as a milestone watch. They see it as an everyday wearing watch. They see it as something to aspire to. So I get all of those things, and it's based on those things that I've chosen my 3 watch collection today. So at number 3, this was actually one of the hardest ones for me to pick. Number 3 for me is a 36mm Oyster Perpetual with a silver dial. Now, if I were to buy that watch today from a Rolex authorized dealer, £5,400. It's not cheap for what is essentially quite a simple stainless steel watch. But let me talk you through why I've selected it. Basically, it is Rolex's entry level into their collection. But even though it is an entry level watch, the cheapest really you can buy from their collection, it has all of the DNA which I find attractive in a Rolex watch. There's no complications, there's no embellishments here. This is pure and simply form following function on your wrist. It is a watch I've never owned, but I'd like to own one. But it is a watch which gets the job done with no fuss and no bother. You put that on your wrist and it's going to tell the time for the rest of your natural life, and you can pass it on to your kids. So it has the Rolex robustness. But what I like about it, particularly on a silver dial, which I've elected because I know many Oyster Perpetuals are sought out by people because Rolex have a tendency to release them in quite bright and garish colours. People like to collect them. People like the fact that it's Rolex's fun experimental watch where they will put funny colours and patterns on the dial. But for me, the silver dial represents something which can be worn every day, all of the time, whatever I'm doing. I could be out here in the woods. It's a tough, robust watch. Remember that Oyster bracelet it comes with? Solid clasp. Oyster bracelet, robust, tough, it's iconic in the watch world. Many other brands have tried and failed to quite replicate the simplistic beauty of the Rolex Oyster bracelet, but it fits perfectly in the Oyster Perpetual watch. Now, the watch head itself, as I said, it's got all of the Rolex DNA. Oyster Perpetual case, 100 meters of water resistance with a screw down crown. Simple, elegant. With that silver dial, I can wear it with my suit when I'm in the city. I can wear it here in the woods and everywhere in between. It's an ultimate wearable, simple watch. Inside the watch though, it's got all of the sophistication that every other Rolex watch has. The 3230 caliber movement inside, 70 hours of power reserve, superlative chronometer accuracy. Plus or minus 2 seconds per day, guaranteed. That's why I have picked the Oyster Perpetual 36mm, because I'm choosing a watch which comes in my size. I am average height, average size guy, so I want a watch which is going to fit proportionally on my wrist. It's going to get the job done, no fuss. That's why the Oyster Perpetual, the everyday Rolex, the entry-level Rolex, is the one that I want on my wrist, because I want to know I've got the solidity and the robustness of a Rolex. But people who see me in the street, they see that watch, they might think, oh, it's a Seiko, it's an Orient, could be any number of watches. Doesn't draw attention to itself. It is kind of the stealth Rolex for the man who doesn't want to flash his watch off to other people. He is wearing it for himself, and for me, it is the number 3 on my top 3 of Rolex watches. So the number 2 watch in my collection is actually the only one which I personally own, and it is the Rolex GMT Master 2. And the one I would choose, because there's a variety to select, would be the one I've actually got. So I did choose it for this purpose. It is the red and blue variety, sometimes known as the Pepsi, but with the Jubilee bracelet. And truthfully, it is a legend amongst legends in the world of horology. Of course, it was designed by Rolex in the 1950s to meet the need of airline pilots who sought to keep track of 2 time zones. And for me, what it brings into my top 3 collection is a couple of complications, which of course my Oyster Perpetual had none. It merely told the time. The GMT Master 2 tells you, yes, of course, tells the time. It also has a date under the date magnifier at 3 o'clock, but it's ace up the sleeve. It's a GMT, which means it keeps track of another time zone by way of an additional hand on the dial, which goes around once every 24 hours. And in conjunction with the bezel, it allows you to keep track of at least one other time zone. It is possible to keep track of 3, but you know, you've got 2 easily readable time zones on your wrist with the glance of an eye, with that additional GMT hand. And what I like about the GMT, yes, it's the size, right? It is 40 millimeters, which is as big as I will ever go. I really ummed and ahed about this number 2, because I was thinking, should I go for Submariner? Should I go for the GMT? The Submariner is a little larger. The modern Submariner, 41 millimeters, opposed to the GMT Master 2 being 40. But crucially, with the Submariner, it is also deeper, bigger. It's a chunkier watch. The GMT is that touch smaller. I think it's a millimeter thinner. And you might think a millimeter wider, a millimeter thinner, those 2 dimensions, does it make that much difference? It really, really does when worn on the wrist, particularly by somebody like me, who isn't a big, hulking guy. I like my watches to fit my proportions. And the GMT Master 2 is just right. And the Jubilee bracelet adds that little bit of panache. Also drapes a little bit better on the wrist. So it's just a lovely, lovely watch to wear around day to day. It's a little sporty, right? Where the Oyster Perpetual, it's just pure functionality. There's no glitz and glamour there. With the GMT, yeah, you've got the complications, but additionally, if you choose one of the color options, which has got a bit more zap to it, so the blue and red, for instance, quite a lot of color going on there. Of course, you've got the black green, the black brown, the black blue, the black gray even, and they're constantly introducing new color varieties. The blue red, it's instantly identifiable, it's quite distinctive, and it adds a bit of colour to one's outfit sometimes. So it's interesting, and that colour comes by way of Rolex's Cerachrome in the bezel insert, which means scratch resistant, fade resistant. Again, it is a watch which should outlast a human lifetime. So I look forward to wearing this one for the rest of my natural life, and then I can pass it on, of course, to my son. And the reason I've picked it for my top 3 collection is, yes, of course, it is a quintessential travel watch, but also it gives you lots of those iconic Rolex DNA features. Jubilee bracelet, Cyclops date magnifier, and the blue and red in the bezel. All of the things that you look for in a Rolex watch, in a utility watch, which is tough and rugged. Screw down crown, 100 meters of water resistance, superlative chronometer. You can treat it as a daily wearer, and it's going to last your lifetime. And that's why I put this iconic Rolex in my top 3. Okay, so my number one, the one you've been waiting for, and for me it was an easy choice. I knew I was going to pick this one from the beginning, and it is the Rolex Day Date 36mm in yellow gold with the white dial, which comes with Roman numerals in the option I'm going for. If I were to buy it from an authorised dealer today, £34,400. And the reason it was a no-brainer for me is because it has gravitas, it has prestige, it is become known as the President because it has been worn by leaders, captains of industry. Admittedly, in recent years, it's also been subverted and been worn by, mafioso leaders. It's been worn by drug dealers and movie villains. But that all adds to the weight of its charisma for me. Of course, introduced 1956, I think it was. It was the first watch which gave you the full date and the day as well. The full day written out at the top. So it's got a bit of a complication. It's not a special one in this day and age, but it is the gravitas of the watch. And again, one which I really liked because Rolex produce it in 36mm and 40mm. So a guy like me, medium proportions, I can choose a watch which will fit proportionally with my frame without being outsized by the constant trend of modern watches to get larger and larger. I'm so delighted that Rolex kept it in its original 36mm for those like I who prefer that size. And I also like that famous President bracelet. Big, chunky, solid gold. You're gonna have a bit of weight on your wrist. You know you are wearing an icon of the watch world. And in yellow gold, I mean, there are many other golds, you can have Everose gold, you can have white gold, you can even have platinum if you've got the money for it. But for me, some may say it is garish, but for me, I've always been a gold fan. I love gold. It is a natural element which exists in perpetuity. Gold doesn't tarnish. It doesn't get affected by corrosion from, the water exposure or anything like that. So it is a watch made of a material, an element off the periodic table, which is going to last forever. Even way, way beyond your lifetime and the lifetimes of your children into the future. And it is still somewhat exclusive. You very rarely see a Rolex Day Date on the wrist of somebody as you go through life. I've seen but a handful in my years of being a bit of a watch spotter as I've gone through life. So it does have still a whiff of exclusivity. But again, in truth, because it's a Rolex, with the Oyster Perpetual case, it's a watch which you can wear with impunity as you go through life. Even though they're fancy enough to wear with your dinner jacket in a black tie event, it's also robust enough to wear on your life journey. Screw-down crown, water resistant to 100 meters. On one of the occasions when I was in Abu Dhabi, I did see a guy wearing one of these. He was wearing it in the pool. And that's what I like about these watches. They are beautiful enough to wear in situations where you wish. That fluted bezel gives you, again, much more of that Rolex DNA. The fluted bezel, the Cyclops magnifier over the date, the President bracelet. This is one of the most Rolex of all Rolex watches, and just delivered in yellow gold. And that white dial, crisp, elegant, never going to go out of fashion. Always going to look great on your wrist, regardless of what clothing you choose to wear with it. It's always going to look just right. And for me, the Day Date, it transcends timekeeping. It is more than a watch. It is truly an icon. And that's why I've picked it in the number one spot in my top 3 collection of Rolex pieces. Okay, there you go. Those are my top 3. And you will note, I've actually given consideration to those 3 watches more than just the actual pieces themselves. You will note that if you look at that 3 collection, Oyster Perpetual, it has the Oyster bracelet, classic utility Rolex's day-to-day grinding workaday bracelet. Then the Jubilee, a little bit more fancy, drapes more nicely on the wrist, very comfortable, particularly with the GMT, works perfectly. And then Rolex's other bracelet, the President bracelet, on the big old watch itself, the champion of their range, the Day Date. So you've got all of the three bracelets predominantly, which are produced by Rolex in all of those three watches. I've got precious metal, I've got stainless steel, I've got colour in the bezel insert of the GMT Master. I have got the white dial, which is wearable with pretty much anything. The fluted bezel, very much iconic of the Rolex brand, quintessential, one would say, easily identifies the watch as Rolex. And in that Oyster Perpetual, a watch I can wear every day without fear of being robbed or mugged or, you know, damaging it, because it is on the more affordable side, yet still gives me, you know, certified chronometer status and a watch which is water resistant to the same level as the watch which costs £34,000. So that's why I picked those three from the current Rolex collection. Let me know what you would have chosen in the comment section below. I would love to hear. Maybe you'd have gone more heavily into the professional range. You like the Submariners, the Explorers and things like that. For me, I've dabbled with a bit of both. The professional range with my GMT, but kind of the classic range with the Oyster Perpetual and the Day Date. I've tried to span most of the Rolex catalogue, but at the same time, definitely leaning towards the icons. And definitely the watches which drip with Rolex's DNA. I hope, Russell, I was able to answer your question adequately. If you've enjoyed it, don't forget, like the video, subscribe for more. Join me on my journey to Chap Nirvana by becoming a patron. Benefit from the extra videos I make exclusively for my patrons. Follow the link in the show notes below. Wear your watch with pride and passion, wherever it is. And I will see you again very soon.